All eyes today are on the conflict and Israel's attack on Iran.
There is absolutely no possible justification for striking Israel with nuclear weapons, not even within the religious paradigm.
Earlier today, Israel conducted an attack on nuclear facilities.
And now this state is striking sovereign Iran, effectively denying it the opportunity to enrich uranium. It's an airport. It is striking Iranian territory, its nuclear facilities, because there is allegedly a threat to the state of Israel. Frankly, I don't see it.
Well, really, where does this even come from? Has there ever been a case where someone threatened the state of Israel? Has even a single country around Israel ever done that? Or have you ever heard of such a thing? Sovereign Iran just wanted to enrich a little uranium, but had absolutely no intention of attacking Israel afterward. Despite the fact that for the past half century, they've been making a few threats here and a few threats there. Well, who these days doesn't want to have their own little nuclear missile? And it wasn't Iran who was paying Hamas. It wasn't Iran, together with Russia, arming Hezbollah. No, it wasn't in Iran that people were celebrating the strike on Israel 8 months ago, to which Israel supposedly didn't respond at the time. And today, things have flared up, and they've been pounding away all day, hitting and hitting non-stop. Today's episode will focus on the hot statements from propagandists, since Solovyov wasn't on air at his radio station, or his channels. I don't know whether to call it Solovyov live boot, that vibe of I'm Jewish, but I kind of support the Arabs because they're our allies, was definitely present. And of course, the Russians managed to tie the topic of Ukraine into everything.
They also had no idea that there would be strikes against the Russian Federation's nuclear triad from Ukraine, with Ukraine providing intelligence data and targeting systems, right? They knew absolutely nothing. So when people now say that the United States is not involved in this conflict, I seriously doubt that the completely independent state of Israel carried out a strike on Iran, fully understanding Iran's capabilities and without expecting any assistance from the United States, distancing itself from all of this. I don't believe that. That's complete nonsense. Nonsense. I don't know, probably meant for Americans.
Well, for Americans, it's that Zadornov-style mockery, just like that. And really, who could possibly believe this nonsense? Only boom boom Americans.
The United States is not behind the attack on Iran. This is a strictly individual in big quotation marks personal decision by Benjamin Netanyahu, since he was pushed to it by another geopolitical elite. I assume, and I'm almost certain of it, that London is actually behind this. It's Great Britain behind this, which pushed Netanyahu to take this reckless step.
So is it the Anglo-Saxons here or just the English? Well, anyway, you get the idea. On the Petrushevsky Telegram channel, which I highly encourage you to subscribe to, we held a poll today about who we should support in the war in the Middle East. And by a wide margin, the first option, Israel, won. The second option, also Israel, got only 14%. But that's how it is. After all, we have a democracy and the situation is developing very quickly. And for Ukrainians, favorites can change from time to time, indeed. But here on Right Now and on the Petrushevsky Telegram channel, we'll keep our finger on the pulse and at the same time listen to make sure Iranian Shiites aren't flying our way.
You see, here too, Israel has devised a very cunning game. It's a trap, the purpose of which was to corner Iran so that Iran would voluntarily withdraw from negotiations with the Americans. And that's exactly what Netanyahu needed to make sure there were no negotiations between Iran and America so that they wouldn't achieve anything. Do you understand? It's a double-edged sword here. On the one hand, they have to respond, but on the other hand, they can't fall into the trap. So the situation is very complicated, extremely difficult for Iran, an unenviable position.
But I can't resist poking a little fun at both Israelis and our colleagues and partners across the ocean that to shoot down 500 Shaheds, they had to scramble the air forces of 3 countries. But in Ukraine, this happens every night, and here we don't put our faith in the United States or anyone else, even those who send the promised missiles they pledge to us, but instead send them to Israel to shoot down Shaheds. They just send them there. Well, they had no idea that anything would happen, but they send them there anyway. They need them more than Ukraine does. But okay, we have Petro with the manpads, we have Mikola with the Browning, and it's them we believe in. And destroying strategic bombers, as they wrote on Twitter, is considered escalation. But striking nuclear facilities in Iran is not escalation. Shooting down Shaheeds over Israel or before they reach Israel with coalition aircraft is not escalation. But shooting down Shaheeds over Ukraine, even those flying over the western regions, is considered escalation. Well, what can you do? That's just the way the world is. Let's not whine about it here. Let's get back to propaganda.
Let's imagine that Iran does not have nuclear weapons for which they are trying to criticize it, impose sanctions, restrict it, and tell it how long it can live.
Let's imagine.
But let's also think about how Iran would respond if it actually had such power, probably in a tougher way.
And could Israel have acted more harshly from the very beginning? I really like how they talk about the nuclear weapons, saying, we don't have nuclear weapons, but if we need to, we'll use them.
Probably not just at the level of condemnation. Probably not just words about how we will respond. People from Israel are writing to us that Iran's response is expected in about 2 hours. Citizens have already been warned to stay in bomb shelters and safe places, because Iran's response will come in several stages. But if there had been such strength, Iran would probably have responded more harshly. Perhaps some insider information appeared within Israeli or some pro-Israeli intelligence, which accordingly made it possible to strike at targets that Iran considered its sacred cows.
Well, in other words, the fact that they were hit was so that they wouldn't make that bomb. No, the Russians won't steer the discussion in that direction, but okay. Today, I spent the whole day reading how the IAEA organization wrote on their site, and they were actively quoted saying that such and such facility was not damaged. Israel seems to say we have destroyed him, but the stench seems to be, well, this object, according to our information, was not harmed. Such and such facility, well, according to our information, was also not damaged. And a couple of hours go by and Israel hits there again, as Major says, jaga jaga, and the propagandists started accusing the IAEA of adjusting the strikes.
The general, our general hero, Rus hero of labor, was killed by Ukrainian terrorists near his home. He headed our chem department in the Ministry of Defense. He was in charge of chemical protection. The question is, what is going on here? So, after all, there are organizations that are under the control of the United States of America. That's Grossi, that's the OPCW, I mean the IAEA, who speak out in the interests of those countries. And then we end up in a situation where, in this case, Iran or Syria is accused of not complying with international humanitarian rights.
Just look at this guy. I didn't have time to make his photo black and white, add a black ribbon, but this is Amir Ali Hajizadeh. He is the person who was responsible for supplying Shaheeds to Russia.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
It was his subordinates who trained the Russians in everything, were present at the launch sites both in Crimea and elsewhere. In short, they were directly involved, and he was the one in charge of all of it. And in fact, he commanded all of Iran's aviation, both manned and unmanned. And the irony of fate is that he also, died from a drone strike.
From the important things, I want to note the following. Iran is already considering a response. There have already been certain retaliatory strikes, at least that's what's being reported. By the way, we have viewers from Israel among our audience, so please keep us updated. Write to us about what's happening. If there are people who are in Iran, please write as well. You can even send this information off air. We'll keep it, but it's important for us to understand what's going on. And
never write to Russians, especially on live broadcasts. I'm asking you very much, don't even write any, as they say, nasty things, okay? Just watch this on our broadcast. Just don't turn theirs on. And if you do turn them on, never write to them in the chats. This is a very important note.
As a result of these strikes, following the exchange of these strikes, there were statements that Iran would not participate in the 6th round of nuclear negotiations in Amman. Yesterday, there was information that it was difficult, but a decision was made. Common ground was found after all, and Iran will participate in these negotiations. Naturally, after what Israel did today, which, in my opinion, are actions that absolutely fall within Israel's own interests. And here we're already talking about a matter of perception.
Oh, what a profound thought. Israel acts in the interest of Israel. In the case of Ukraine, where Shiites rain down on our heads every night and Iranian missiles have fallen, for us, there simply cannot be any other perspective on this situation. Of course, many people today have been recalling in the comments the year 2018 when Netanyahu came to Moscow, wore the St. George's ribbon, and so on. But then, after all the significant and impactful events of last October, when Hamas was in the process of being disarmed in the Gaza Strip, and when the very latest Russian weapons were seen stored in the warehouses, Jews all over the world saw this happening, and even those who tried so hard to be blind, who literally covered their eyes with their hands, well, even they eventually opened them.
The involvement of Iran in the conflict in the Middle East is quite a serious matter. If last time it was a symbolic strike by Iran on Israeli territory,
Symbolic.
a symbolic response, then I think and I hope that this current round of confrontation between these two states will not be symbolic. That is, symbolism never leads to peace for a long time. Symbolism means that we struck, but struck just enough to show that we are capable of striking. But real, serious military actions tend to sober up the most odious and unserious people. Those who think that everything will end for them with just a bit of shooting and then everyone will go their separate ways. No.
Well, obviously not. And the first round definitely goes to Israel, which took out the entire top command of Iran and destroyed their air defense systems. Take a look at this video. This is a hit on the entrance to an underground missile city near the city of Kermanshah. It's likely that at that moment missiles were being unloaded there and Israel successfully caught their enemies off guard. The scale of the detonation is truly enormous. Most likely a chain reaction occurred and the explosion spread inside. We've seen plenty of videos showing how Iran stores its missiles in underground bunkers. We'll keep watching because all of this won't end today. This has already been announced by the ADF. But let's get back to that propagandist guy who claims to be independent but was actually rooting for Iran.
As of today, it's a proxy war. Just look at how interestingly the plot is unfolding. Ukraine is a proxy for the United States of America and NATO. That's already a fact. They're trying to get us to the negotiating table by either increasing or decreasing aid to the Ukrainian state. Isn't that right? So the same thing is happening here. The proxy of the United States of America in the Middle East isn't some organization like, say, the Kurds, who can be used as a proxy, for example, in Syria or someone else. Their proxy in the form of a state is, as a matter of fact, the state of Israel. And this state, in turn, carries out strikes against sovereign Iran, preventing it from enriching uranium and, as they see it, from producing its own nuclear weapons, which could potentially counter Israel.
Well, what else would you need highly enriched uranium for? Just to have a missile, just in case, right? But, okay, what about Trump? That's really interesting, right? Logically, you might ask, and I think you read his statements today. For those who haven't read them, he wrote that he tried to play at negotiations. He writes, I gave Iran many chances to make a deal. I firmly warned them just do it, but they failed. I said it would be worse than they could imagine. The US makes the best and deadliest weapons. Israel has a lot of them and will have even more. Some Iranian radicals talked tough, but now they're all, That's it. And by the way, for some reason, I didn't read a single phrase about how, if he were president, this war would never have started. But the internet remembers everything. So here's a video from 2020 with subtitles for those who don't understand English.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He is weak and ineffective.
But it's good that now the United States has a president who knows how to negotiate, who ends all wars, just as he promised. They sure are lucky. A guy said it. A guy did it to different guys, though. We don't know who will win in this confrontation, Israel or Israel. But for Ukraine, it's beneficial for this war to end as soon as possible because oil prices are rising every minute. I don't know if you know this story or not. There's the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran has constantly threatened to block it. A third of all the oil from the Persian region passes through it, or maybe even all the oil, doesn't matter. But if they block it, the price of oil will rise to 30, maybe even more dollars per barrel, which is very, very beneficial for Putin. So hopefully we know what Israel is doing. Let's hope they act as quickly as possible. Well, you get the idea. Tomorrow there will be an episode related to Ukraine. Tomorrow there will be a lot of interesting things about what's going on in Russia. I strongly encourage you to hit the notification bell so you don't miss tomorrow's episode. And as for news about Israel and Iran and what's happening there, as I mentioned, look for it on the Petrushevsky Telegram channel. I'm leaving the link below the video. Bye-bye, everyone.